What's up guys, it's Will back again, and today's review is Season 6 of the HBO fantasy drama series, Game of Thrones. I know I was doing recaps of each episode a couple weeks back now, but I got so wrapped up trying to complete the movie review requests, plus reviews of new movies that I had to decide between the two. Next season of Game of Thrones, I should be able to provide weekly recaps and reviews once again though. But either way, today's video is going to be a review of Season 6 in its entirety, and I'm just going to provide you guys my thoughts on the season as a whole. I'm going to be as general as I can be because obviously a lot happened in the 10 episodes we got this season, but just a quick note real quick, this video will definitely contain spoilers. So if you're not caught up on Game of Thrones Season 6 and you don't want anything spoiled for you, then turn back now. Since you're still here, that means you're ready for some Game of Thrones Season 6 goodness, so with that said, let's get into it. Okay, so I gotta tell you guys that I think this season of Game of Thrones has to be the best season yet. I say that it's the best season because the show did such a great job building storylines that finally provided some really good payoffs during this season's 10 episodes. One thing I've always said about this show is that it does a remarkably good job balancing a ton of different characters and storylines and somehow having them all connect. Obviously, George R.R. Martin is really the mastermind behind this because he created this universe and its characters, but adapting 5 extremely dense books into a TV show is no easy feat. I'm not going to say that every character's storyline is always entertaining 100% of the time because that's just not true. But this season especially did such a great job of making those smaller, possibly even boring moments ultimately feel worth it because of the payoff they provide you at season's end. An example of this would be pretty much any time Daenerys was on screen, excluding the last 2 episodes. She was held prisoner for almost 4 whole episodes, and every time she would come on screen, I'd just be like, can we cut back to Jon Snow or something? Because Dany's storyline seems to be the same thing repetitively over and over again. And it is because the showrunners want you to see Dany struggle and go through the growing pains of how difficult it is to gain support, build an army and ships, etc., and eventually sail for Westeros. And there were tons of times where, like I said, I was bored with Dany, but seeing her destroy the slave master's ship with her dragons and then sail for Westeros was really exciting because it was not only the payoff of this season, but all 6 really. Another example of this would be Arya's storyline. This was definitely executed much more sloppily than Dany's, but still the payoff was great in the end when she uses some of her training to kill the villainous Walder Frey. Cause let's be real about this, all of us hate Walder Frey. The Arya Faceless Man storyline was cool at first, but it seemed like she never really made any progress with them, especially considering the fact that she knew the waif was coming for her, and she stood out in the open like a dummy and basically let her slice her open. She probably should have died from that too, but whatever, she's alive and she beat the waif, albeit very sloppily. Also the fact that Jaqen H'ghar just lets Arya go because she added the waif's face to the Many-Faced God's wall was kind of weird to me. Like, I get a face was added, but Arya is just abandoning the Faceless Men with all this insight into their work that she could tell people if she wanted. It seems kind of dangerous to me. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is the insane action that we got this season. There were some absolutely brutal scenes that were just amazing to watch on screen because of the crazy awesome CGI and just sheer craziness of everything going on. The most obvious example of this would be the battle between the Bolton army and the Stark army. Episode 9, Battle of the Bastards, is probably my second favorite Game of Thrones episode of all time. This battle that played out on the screen between these 2 armies captured the brutality of warfare like only the best pieces of entertainment ever could. This battle reminded me a lot of a smaller scale Lord of the Rings battle, or even the Saving Private Ryan battle on Normandy Beach in the very beginning of that film. There were bodies piled so high on the battlefield that they became obstructions to the soldiers that were still fighting, and it just showed how crazy and frantic a battle like this is for the soldiers fighting in it. There's horses just slamming into each other and arrows flying everywhere, and really it's all random. Whether or not you survive this fight is mostly up to chance and luck. The CGI of it all looked absolutely fantastic as well because the entire battle sequence was just amazing from start to finish to watch, and obviously when you have that many soldiers and one won the giant, you need the CGI a lot of it. It all looked fantastic though, and I'm really glad Ramsay got what he deserved because his death was truly a fan service, and it felt so sweet to see him get what was coming to him. Even if Sansa did kind of stoop to Ramsay's level a little bit by letting him be eaten by his own dogs like that. I knew this victory would come at a cost though, and I'm sad Wun had to die, but hey, CGIing a giant is expensive, so I see why they killed him. I did think either Davos or Tormund was gonna die too, so that was a pleasant surprise when neither of them did. On the topic of character deaths though, we had several this season that were truly shocking, some sad and some not so sad. The saddest one obviously being in episode 5 entitled The Door, door when Hodor dies at the hands of the Whites. This is really just amazing storytelling though, because the fact that Hodor becomes Hodor because Bran walked into him within a vision is just craziness. And to add to that, he gets the name Hodor because he hears Meera yelling hold the door to him through the vision. It's sad because Hodor sacrificed his whole life to protect Bran, and you have to think, did he see this vision? Did he even know that he was living his life for this moment? Either way, if any of you saw these events coming or predicted it before the season, then you're some kind of genius or a long lost relative of Miss Cleo, because I didn't see this one coming at all. Bran's storyline was another one that the showrunners really made me care about this season because of the things he and the OG Three-Eyed Raven could show us from the past. In previous seasons, it was a lot of Bran just being carried through the snow by Hodor and not really making much progress that seemed important. But little did I know, once Bran arrived at Bloodraven's cave, he would become one of my favorite characters. He also led us to Cold Hand / Frozen Uncle Benjen Stark, so that was cool too. The most important thing we were shown from Bran though, obviously, just completely revealed itself, and that's the Tower of Joy scene. The R+L=J fan theory that's been posted pretty much everywhere for years now finally has come to fruition. This theory says that Jon Snow is actually the son of Prince Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark, who's Ned Stark's sister. And this theory just made entirely too much sense to not be true, so we were all expecting it to be true, and it was. Game of Thrones is almost past the point of surprising us because there's a fan theory out there for almost every single possible outcome for every situation, and it's just really hard to catch us off guard at this point. But Jon Snow's true parentage being revealed is huge and something we've been waiting on for 6 whole seasons, and it was absolutely perfect. The scene was acted beautifully by young Ned Stark and Lyanna Stark and really got me in the feels. I had chills the entire scene, and once again, no man tears were shed, but I was oh so close. Also, now that Jon Snow is being hailed as the true king in the north, his reign as king might be short-lived when he finds out from Bran that he's actually not Ned Stark's son, meaning his claim to the throne of Winterfell is not really all that legitimate. My guess is that after word of this somehow gets to Jon, maybe Baelish somehow plays this card so he can rule the north, or Sansa will be placed in charge of Winterfell or something. Either way though, Jon Snow's story really has come full circle because he's back home at Winterfell after going to the Night's Watch, going north of the Wall and fighting White Walkers, dying, coming back to life, defeating Ramsay Bolton, and obviously now he's back in Winterfell. The relationship between Jon and Sansa is going to be really interesting because it seems like Sansa was a little disappointed that she didn't get any of the credit for retaking Winterfell, and Jon is hailed as the savior while she got no shine. I think Littlefinger is going to try to play Sansa against Jon and try to divide the two slowly but surely. Okay, to transition, I thought the acting this season was the best it's been on any season of Game of Thrones thus far. There's just far too many characters to name and go into individually, but I really thought everyone was fantastic besides the Sand Snakes. If you've been on the Game of Thrones subreddit or anywhere online really, most people constantly trash the Sand Snakes. I'm kinda on board with this mentality because they're mostly really corny and not well acted. We saw a decent amount of Dorne in the first 2 episodes and then none until episode 10, and that was a-okay by me. The Dorne plot is really stale without Oberyn Martell, who was just awesome. But in terms of acting, Peter Dinklage was really great once again in this season, albeit in limited screen time. He definitely didn't seem like he was in it as much this season, but whatever, he was just as fantastic as usual, and that's probably why Tyrion is such a fan favorite. He's well acted and he's a sympathetic character. I also think that Kit Harington deserves an Emmy for his performance this season, particularly in the Battle of the Bastards episode. He gave such a great performance as a revived and somewhat changed Jon Snow. First off though, let me say that Jon Snow being brought back to life in episode 2 was absolutely insane, and I was losing my mind when it actually happened. I mean, like I said, Game of Thrones doesn't always surprise us anymore, and this moment we kinda knew was coming, but we just didn't know when. It came a lot earlier than I expected though. But for real though, I get Melisandre burned Shireen, and that's just an awful thing to do, but Jon's party are being some thankless bitches right now for exiling her for what she did. Yes, what she did was terrible and ultimately a failure, but you forget that she resurrected Jon, and without her doing that, no one would be where they are right now. My guess is she's gonna bump into Arya somehow, and she's gonna tell her what happened, and Arya's gonna get back home and be like, I heard everything that happened and that shit's crazy. So I also have to give kudos to the acting performances of Lena Headey as Cersei Lannister, Nikolai Coster-Waldau as Jaime Lannister, and Jonathan Pryce as the High Sparrow. Cersei in particular was absolutely outstanding this season, and this is the best she's ever been. The plan that she executed in episode 10 with the wildfire was absolutely genius and was a perfect ending to a storyline that probably needed to end. The Faith versus the Lannisters and the Crown kind of wore on me a little bit after a while, and I was ready for it to be over. This was another one of those situations though where it wears on you because it feels repetitive, but the payoff was so awesome that in hindsight it all feels worth it in the end. But Lena Headey as Cersei was so great because she's such a schemer and she'll do anything to get her way. I don't think she even knew that she'd end up on the throne from it, but hey, here we are. Sucks Tommen decided to faceplant himself out of a window, but he lost pretty much everything he held dear besides his mother, and he said, fuck it, peace out world. Now that Cersei's back in charge, I'm thinking Trial by Combat makes a comeback, the Hound arrives in King's Landing, and we finally get Clegane Bowl at some point next season. Fucking confirmed. Also, can we please see more of Robert Strong, because he's so badass and we rarely get to see him in action. He mostly just looks intimidating but doesn't do much actual fighting. We need more Zombie Mountain. Jaime is also great this season because he pretty much does everything he can with the ultimate end goal in mind of being with Cersei. But when he gets back to King's Landing and sees what Cersei has done, he has this look of disdain for her. Is Jaime gonna end up killing Cersei and being the Queenslayer too? Kingslayer and Queenslayer? I think yes. Jonathan Pryce, who played the High Sparrow, was great because he was a master manipulator in secrecy. I don't know how anyone could really like his character though, because he's obviously a schemer and not free of ambition and a personal agenda. He may act like he's holy and he wants everyone to be pure, but I never bought that. But that's a testament to Jonathan Pryce's performance because his character has a lot of layers to him. His delivery of dialogue and facial expressions screams something bigger at play, and that's just good acting. Okay, so overall this season of Game of Thrones is some of the best television that I've ever watched. It's not quite up to par with Breaking Bad yet, but man is it catching up quickly because this season was just absolutely outstanding. I thought the action was amazing visually, the payoffs were beautifully executed, the acting was the best it's ever been, and the balancing of characters and storylines was very well done. I did think episodes 1, 6, 7, and 8 were relatively poor episodes for Game of Thrones standards, and the storytelling was a tad sloppy at times, but that's the worst I can say about this season. I'm still gonna give season 6 of Game of Thrones a 10 out of 10 and say that it's an absolute must watch for anyone and everyone. Episodes 9 and 10 were to me the best 2 episodes in Game of Thrones history, so it's hard for me to say that this isn't the best season, because to me it definitely is. Like I said though, episodes 1, 6, 7, and 8 were definitely a little slow and not so great, but the other episodes were just so amazing that it more than made up for what those 4 episodes lacked. So did you guys see Game of Thrones season 6 yet? What did you think of it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if not, let me know why you haven't seen it. Maybe you're not into Game of Thrones, who knows? And in that case, I'm not sure why you're watching this video, but hey, whatever. And as always, if you like this video, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for future content like this. I know I couldn't get to every single thing in season 6, but I hope I covered everything you wanted to hear about, and if I missed something, let's discuss it in the comments. That's all for now though. This is WolfOxyfication signing off. See you in the next review.